Molly, how did you find carnivore?
Well, I started a health journey back in 2017. As far as I became my I have multiple sclerosis, and that year is when my doctor diagnosed me with progressive MS, and he told me that everything is as bad as it is going to stay that way. Nothing will ever get better. So I need to start taking the drugs, which I quit taking the drugs about 5 years before that. The MS medication just made me so sick. I couldn't do it anymore. It was about quality of life. So I still was refusing the medication. And he said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" I said, "Well, I'm going to stop smoking," which I smoked for 26 years. And I said, and I was going to change my lifestyle and figure out how is going to be the most beneficial way to live my life. So he kind of gave me a good luck, and I haven't seen him since then. But I don't get along with doctors typically and neurologists. I typically have my own opinion and I'm very strong willed. So I started doing my research. I did reading for as much as I could. Of course, I found Dr. Barry, which everybody always seems to be, up on Dr. Barry, but he spoke to me so beautifully because he spoke so simply and straight to the point, no technical anything. And he said, if you want to do this lifestyle change, which at that time he was talking about changing your diet, probably into more of a keto type situation, was where he was focused at that point in time. And he said, but if you're smoking, don't even bother. He goes, but switch over to the vape. It's less bad. So Dr. Barry gave me the concept of less bad, which really helped me along the way. The whole concept of less bad. I'm like, okay, I could do this. So I switched over to a vape and I set a deadline of when I was going to not smoke cigarettes anymore. And I locked myself into a time frame. And then I switched over to the vape. And then every month I lowered the concentration of the vapor that I was smoking. And I found like a holistic, nerd. I always call it nerd, organic everything, and made in Florida. So it was all natural tobacco vapor. So I figured that was less bad. So I just kept reducing it and reducing it. But I was on the lowest concentration for probably about a year and a half afterwards, just to get used to the concept. And it was so hard. It was like even that small percent, I was still dependent on the nicotine to where when I finally quit the the vape, I didn't talk to anybody about it because I was still bitter about not having my nicotine for like 6 months afterwards. It was like I don't even want to talk about it. Finally, somebody asked me, going, "Hey, I haven't even seen you use the vape," and every time I'd be like, "I don't want to talk about it yet." So I always have to get stuff set in my mind first, before I ever want to discuss anything. So anyway, after that, actually, I when I first back up in 2017 when I quit smoking, I waited for a month and a half to make sure that I was good with the quit smoking and I could do the vape and not pick up a cigarette again. And then I did all of the dietary changes, which have you ever heard of AIP?
No, never heard of AOP.
Okay, it's called Autoimmune Protocol. So at this time frame, that's where everybody was pushing you as far as dietary changes, which is basically no dairy, no eggs, no grains. So it was a whole food diet. And so I had been doing so much research that I knew that fasting was important. So I set a date in my mind of when I was going to go into this whole food diet from a totally horrible standard American diet. It was just atrocious. I mean, shameful. I was definitely bad food all the time. Never even occurred to me that the food had anything to do with my health before I started doing the research. But anyway, so I switched over, but what I did was I learned the importance of fasting. So I did a 3-day fast to fast out the old before I started my new, protocol, which is AIP, which is a whole food diet, which if everybody would just switch to a whole food diet, the planet would be a healthier place. But so after the 3 day, or actually in the middle of the 3 day fast, day 2, there was a calmness that came across me that I didn't even realize how bad it was until it was gone. It was almost like emergency alert systems going off, like the whole building's about to explode. And it was my allergies to the food that I was eating calmed down after 24 hours or 48 hours of not eating that crap. And it calmed me down so much that I quit taking my anti-anxiety medication and my antidepressant medication, because that calm I hadn't felt in years. So day 2, I was off those medications. I'm like, forget it. I know it's not what the doctors would recommend, but again, I have a hard time listening to anybody else. But so, and I felt so, honestly, I felt so extraordinarily wonderful that that was enough inspiration to keep going. But, I did it for years and years, and I had this sneaking suspicion that I wasn't removing the foods that were causing problems. Like, I obviously removed all of the artificial man-made crud, as far as the seed oils and the grains and what they do to the wheat in America here is just criminal almost. I mean, I don't know how that's even allowed. But all the pesticides. So I cleaned up all of that stuff. But something in my gut was still just not right. Like it was almost like I didn't, because this was an elimination diet, which I did all of the rules for a year and a half. And I slowly started reintroducing foods at that point. And it didn't seem like anything really made that much of a difference unless I really had some kind of food allergy to it, which I found that red wine, electrical sensations up and down my spine immediately, like with a thimbleful full. So I had to step away from all the bad stuff before I could figure out what was good, I guess. So I did that for a long time, and then it just seemed so restrictive, and I knew the eggs. I mean, I really missed eggs. I was off eggs for like 2 years, and I knew they were so nutritious. So I kind of, listening to Dr. Berry, well, actually, at that point, he was talking about carnivore on Joe Rogan, and I was like, you guys are all wackadoodles. I thought they were crazy. Why would you go that extra step unless you absolutely had to? And I think everybody's different. I think some people have to, and some people can get away with just cleaning up their diet and totally be healthy and good. But so I always it was in the back of my mind for like 5 years. I would say that carnivore, to answer your question, 5 years ago, it was on my radar, and I would always say, okay, worst case scenario, I'll do it. Last case scenario, if I got nothing else, that's my last option, I will do it. So I kept moving more into the keto world. Um, but again, not too much changes in my guts, man. They were just always crud. And I knew from all of my research that the peak of health is to wake up in the morning, clear out your system, and be good to go. And sometimes it would take me 2, 3, 4 days to even clear out my system, not to get too graphic. But um, so anyway, I started watching more Dr. Berry's recently, and he was really pushing on doing the 90 days. Do it 90 days carnivore at least. And I'm like, all right, fine. I'll do 90 days carnivore, which 90 days. It was 90 days to convince you that this is the way to eat. I thought it was the ultimate elimination diet, but it's like I can't go back now. I mean, from only a couple of days of doing this, all of the weight on my guts ease up and relax to where my whole system, like my guts are so happy now doing carnivore that it is the ultimate elimination diet. So I'm slowly trying to reintroduce stuff because it's been well past 90 days. I did it 90 days, actually 97 days before my 50th birthday, because I thought that was a good, timeline. I always have to set timelines for myself. But as I tried to introduce stuff back in and vegetables that I love, my gut, leave it to me. I mean, fiber constipates me, of course I'd be the backwards person. It doesn't make sense, but it does. So, I've been able to bring in a little bit of some fruits, but I think it's too soon. I think I was kind of too fast on the gun. I think I probably need to go back and do a complete lion diet type thing. I really don't want to, but gosh darn it, it's just so beneficial. I want to
Mm.
find what benefits I can get from this because of how my body is. I'd like to heal as much as I can, but
Yeah.
I'm old.
So in these 90 odd days, what's changed for you?
Well, now we're actually looking because the 90 days was the end of June. So, we're still moving forward with it. A little bit of some fruit here and there, just because, you know, actually it's more of pressure from other people are a little bit worried about my lack of variety in my diet. And I keep telling them that I'm happy just eating meat and I'm not missing anything horribly, but it's just one of those things. So I have a little bit of some seasonal fruit is something I have in my mind, which of course, if it's seasonal fruit, I'll have that, but that's only going to be available for so much longer. I mean, it's the end of summer. So I know I need to clean it up more. I kind of did like a dirty carnivore type thing as far as I allowed the dairy, I allowed the coffee. I tried to make it as pain free as possible for me because that's how my brain works. I had to, before I even started going with this, I always laugh. I have to find my cheat food that's less bad to feed my inner fat kid, is what I call it, because I've been heavy my whole life. I have. From a small, well, I was 16, size 16 in the sixth grade. So that's pretty hefty. So yeah, I got up to a size 20 before I did all of these lifestyle changes. The weight came off easy. Losing weight is easy. It's getting healthy. It's a little bit more of a pain in the butt. The first thing it was easing up, well, the first thing that eased up was my guts, which was phenomenal. But my brain fog seems to be easing up quite a bit more to where before I didn't have an interest in doing anything. I was okay with not doing anything because of my lack of energy and my chronic fatigue. But now I'm like planning different projects and stuff, which I haven't done in years. So just the fact that I'm actually starting to, you know, cognitively sit there and plan all of this stuff out, something besides this whole dietary thing, which this has been my hobby for years as far as trying to figure out what the heck is going on, which now I think I have too much information in all of this. I've listened to too many people, but the last time I went to my oral hygienist, I go 3 times a year because especially smoking for as many years as I did, I always have to have periodontal things. And she just went, "What are you doing?" And I go, "What?" She goes, "What?" And this was only a month into carnivore. She goes, "You're barely bleeding." And I'm like, well, I told her I was doing carnivore, which she is going to school to become a nutritionalist. So, she just immediately was like, that is phenomenal. These young kids, they're on this stuff. They know what's going on, which is kind of cool. So it gives me hope for the future. But she's pretty young. She was way excited. She really encouraged me to keep going. She said that my teeth haven't looked like this. My bottom teeth were loose from bone loss for smoking for 26 years. They've tightened back up. So I can't wait until she sees that. She's going to die. That was about 3 months. That was about the 90-month range when I kind of noticed that my bottom teeth weren't jiggly anymore. So I was like, well, that's something. I don't know. We'll hear it. I should go to the dentist pretty soon, so I'll hear all about that. But my blood work since I switched over to whole food has always been beautiful. My doctor totally encouraging. The only time that she kind of flipped was when I told her about switching to carnivore in the last blood work that she saw. She said my triglycerides, no, my LDL. was too high. And I said, isn't that my cholesterol? And she goes, yeah. And I said, oh no, I'm low in cholesterol. And she goes, what? I said, I'm trying to build my cholesterol. And she goes, what are you talking about? I'm all, your brain is nothing but saturated fat and cholesterol. And my myelin level that I'm missing is nothing but saturated fat and cholesterol. So I'm low in fat. So then she really freaked out because I told her not only am I eating carnivore, I'm eating I finally worked myself up to about a cube of butter a day. I know it sounds gross, but I need to get my fat up.
So the issues that MS was manifesting for you was along the lines of chronic fatigue.
Um, there's a lot of things. Yeah, chronic fatigue. One of the reasons that I got disabled was from the brain fog. As far as a new company had taken over my business, and they just couldn't train me, and it was horrible because I couldn't learn and he couldn't train me. And so, yeah, the brain fog, I went to it is a psychologist, neurologist, or a psychoneurologist. I think that's what it is. Psychoneurologist. Anyway, he put me through 4 hours of tests to show all of my cognitive decline. He said that my IQ is crazy high, but my cognitive skills are way slowed down and delayed. Plus, he explained all these different things of how my brain works. Like, I have a horrible gait and how I walk is horrible. But when I walk for me and I do my exercises, walking and exercise, I do really well. But as soon as somebody else is there, the distractions screw my brain up so much that like my walk goes just really bad. So it's a work in progress. I have lots of scars from my MRIs in my brain and in my spine. I'm kind of waiting for more carnivore and more healing that I know is occurring before I go back for another MRI, because the contrast that they inject in your veins is really hard on your kidneys. So I don't want to do that every year like most MS people do. I kind of like my kidneys. They do a good job. So, but so I want to delay until there's a little bit more of something to prove, because I feel like my scarring is probably gone down. But honestly, the scarring is so bad in me. I've been sick with MS I got diagnosed in 2000. So 24 years. I mean, I've been sick for quite a few years. That's degraded me quite a bit, through and taken me down, but I'm working my way back up, I think. I really do feel like I am hitting some progress. Stuff that I've never had before. Well, everything, the doctor tells you everything is bad. It's never going to get better. It's always going to get worse. And once you've lost it, it's gone forever. Get on the medication. You know, that's all they push. But medical is pushing sick care, not health care. And a lot of these things.
Yeah, so you feel like having been on carnivore for quite a few months now, the cognition is getting better, things are
Yes,
getting clearer.
yes. I'm coming out of a long fog. It's been a long fog, and I'm slowly coming out of it. And my head is plotting, which is like how I used to be. You know what I mean? So it's kind of nice to feel part of me coming back to life again. And it's enough to encourage me to where I love watching you guys. I love how inspired and how wonderful it is for all of you guys. I find that it kills my appetite and I have a hard time eating enough food, but I'm working on it.
So on that, what is your daily food intake like?
Um, Most days I try to eat 2 meals a day because I know that I'm under eating. I mean, my weight loss definitely stalled. I even gained a couple of pounds, which I'm hoping that's saturated fat building up my myelin level. So that would work. But anyway, um, so I eat a third of a hamburger patty of Wagyu hamburger patty a day. Sometimes I'll have yogurt. Sometimes I'll have a little handful of blueberries with the yogurt. And then dinner usually is two sources of proteins, like eggs and steak, or two different forms of protein. I usually go over to my parents' house. We live on a little lot where I have a small little house that I live in, and my parents live in the bigger house on the other side. So we meet up for dinner, and usually my mom's making me dinner, and they're very accommodating. But so, yeah, she always makes sure that I have two different kinds of protein, make sure that I get enough. So most days I eat the twice a day, but some days I only do one meal a day. And I try to eat as much as I can over at her house.
I mean, it's good that, you are seeing some results from this, but, I guess having done this for quite a few months now, for someone coming into carnivore, what would you recommend to them to stick with it?
I think it really helped that I was already fat adapted. I think that would have been really hard to go through, you know. And the few people that I have talked about it, I tell them to up their fat and their protein. You know, just keep getting more and more fat and eat more than you want to. You know, just keep saturating that part of your body, and basically your body kind of takes over, doesn't it? Like let you know that's what it wants.
And how would you address the criticism that carnivore is too restrictive? What would you say to that?
Being disabled is restrictive. I mean, I'm dependent on a wheelchair. I go to physical therapy, you know, which is wonderful and it's really good. So I'm working on it, but it's everything's hard. Everything's more difficult, of course, when you got the, you know, wheelchair. I'm blessed as far as I got everything that I need to take care of what I need to, but it would be nice to, you know, also have my right knee is pretty much destroyed. It needs a knee replacement. But the doctor told me until I start walking right, he won't give me a knee replacement because my gait is so bad. He says I'll destroy the new knee. So I have a brace that goes basically from my butt to my toes for it's yeah, a big old brace to get me walking right. So it's a process. I'm working on it and my brain is starting to pick up all of that stuff. You know, I feel like a little some momentum. Like I hear from my physical therapist, I get a lot more compliments, which he's a man of few words and usually kind of rolls his eyes and makes comments like it must be hard to be you, right? But lately I've been getting the oh that was a good balance one. Oh, you did good on that one. And it's like, wow, okay. So something, I'll take it. Better's always better.
Yeah, well, Molly, it'd be great if you could maybe come back in a few months and let us know how things are progressing.
I
It would
would.
be it'd be wonderful to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to have a better setup on my computer and my headphones and all that stuff. But mostly, I just wanted to come and just tell you what has kept me patient is watching all of your guys' videos. All of your videos have given me such inspiration to keep going, you know? I know that I'm headed in
Mhm.
the right direction because so many people, I mean, I can't even mention all the different names and the different stories. I mean, you guys have become like my daily addiction to hear, okay, this is where
Right. If someone wants to reach out to you, do you have any social media that they can get in contact with you on?
you can give them my email. I'm not really social. I'm sorry.
No worries. Well, I'll include your email in the show notes. Molly, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I really appreciate all that your work you're doing. Thank you.